In this lesson, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Early Years Learning Framework. Now, this lesson is relevant for early childhood educators and service providers in Australia only. So if this isn't you, please feel free to skip this lesson. The Early Years Learning Framework is a key component of the National Quality Framework for Early Childhood Education and Care. And the framework was developed in consultation between the Australian state and federal governments and the early childhood sector, and there was quite a degree of consultation between the two. There were 2 national symposiums, there was quite a lot of consultation forums, focus groups and so on. So I think it's a good example of collaboration between the sector and government. So belonging, being and becoming, the Early Years Learning Framework, describes the principles and practices as well as the outcomes that support and enhance a young child's learning from birth to 5 years, and this includes transition to school. We have kept this framework in mind very much at the forefront of our thinking when developing our Sounds Good to Me program, because, as I keep saying, we want this to be easy to implement. And clearly, if it's in line with the framework in which you're operating, then that will make it easier to implement. So the framework, as well as our program, has an emphasis on play-based learning, and you can feel confident about that. Some of the activities are structured play, but in our Q&As with Catherine at the end of each module, you'll notice that Catherine has a strong preference for incidental teaching and some great examples of how we can teach phonological awareness skills through incidental play-based activities. So to comply with the framework, educators need to use modelling and exposure. They need to model new skills to children and expose them to a range of different activities. And then the idea is to respond to those emerging skills. So particularly in the area of school readiness and phonological awareness, the children will be all at different levels of readiness and have different levels of interest in these skills. So we can respond to those as they emerge and help the children to strengthen those skills before they start school. There are 5 outcomes to the framework, so I'll just run through those quickly for those of you who aren't familiar. So outcome 1, children have a strong sense of identity. Outcome 2, children are connected with and contribute to their world. Outcome 3, children have a strong sense of well-being. Outcome 4, children are confident and involved learners. And outcome 5, children are effective communicators. So particularly outcomes 4 and 5 are really where we are interested with our phonological awareness and Sounds Good to Me program. Let's have a little bit of a look at outcome 5 in a bit more detail. So children interact verbally and non-verbally with others for a range of purposes, and I think this is really important. I've seen a lot of children start school and they have some functional oral communication. They're able to use language to get what they need, but they're lacking the richness of that language experience. And this is what we really need to occur in the early childhood years, so that when children hit the school formal learning arena, they've got that richness of language in order to be able to access the curriculum. Children engage with a range of texts and gain meaning from these texts. So early childhood is a great time to teach children about books and text, and particularly a love of books and literature, which is a skill for life. Children express ideas and make meaning using a range of media. So not only will children express their ideas through oral language, they'll also be using art and craft, painting, sculpture, play, and a whole range of different media. Children begin to understand how symbols and patterns work, and children use information and communication technologies to access information, investigate ideas, and represent their thinking. So we have included a range of apps and computer-based programs that can be incorporated into this program. Developmental milestones include writing some numbers and letters, starting to copy letters and may be starting to write some letters unprompted, not always getting it right, of course. Children enjoy jokes, rhymes and stories. So as you work through the lessons and the modules, you'll see that Sounds Good to Me follows these outcomes under the framework, and you can feel confident that the work you do in this program aligns with your framework. So teaching phonological awareness in the early years, as I've just said, does fit with the early years learning framework, which can give you some confidence. It definitely uses the skills and training of early childhood educators. You'll see as you work through Sounds Good to Me that you're often doing some of these activities already, and with a little bit of tweaking you can turn them into really strong evidence-based phonological awareness activities. They don't need to take up a whole lot of extra time or resources. Play-based learning is the whole basis of the program, and you'll see that the activities are play-based. Some of them are structured play, some of them are incidental play. There's a raft of evidence to support these activities, and I'll be providing that evidence in other lessons, as well as some references at the end of this lesson. And the activities and the program we know is effective and enjoyable. We've developed Sounds Good to Me alongside early childhood educators, and we know that both the educators and the children enjoy the activities, and I'm sure you will too. Okay, so here are just some references about the Early Years Learning Framework for Australia if you're interested in reading more. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.